Alright, y'all. I think it's time we do this. Do what? Bring myself out of TV review retirement, because, I don't really be watching TV like that. But we consider Netflix TV, and even though I still barely watch that either. I did watch the new key of Cowboy Bebop, and I have feelings, as many who have seen it, and many have vocalized very, very, very loudly, especially fans of the original. So what I'm going to do is kind of go over what I think of each episode, then give an overall thing, kind of like the format I do with some of my fair shake reviews of albums, and yeah. So that means this is gonna be getting in spoiler territory. I am gonna be talking about things that happen in the episodes, how I feel, the impression it gives me, and this is all after seeing the series twice. Yeah, I watched it one time just straight through to see it, and then I watched it a second time just so I can review it, because it's like, you know what, I feel like I need to say something about this just because I think maybe it'll be interesting. So the second time I watched through, made notes, and I'm actually gonna watch it a third time along with Nico, just to see how she feels watching it, because I think it'd be interesting to see her opinion, and I know that she's gonna have a first impressions, I believe, or a full review of her own. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, after that. So maybe I'll do a follow-up piece after we end up watching it together. But this time it's just my own thoughts off of my first two watches of this whole first season, if there is another season to come, like they kind of set themselves up to do. Yeah, let me just take a quick moment to tell you about the Patreon, though. There I do special things for the patrons, where I would react to mainly a lot of K-pop stuff, and then a couple of vlog things too. It's if you want a little bit more content along the lines of movies and TV reviews and thoughts like that, then you can support the Modi Cult leader, Miko. So look up Modi Cult Miko, and you'll be able to support her on Patreon as well and get more of the content along the lines of this particular review. But yeah, so I don't have the names of these episodes, so I'm just going to be going off of the number of episodes. So here we go. Episode 1. I felt like the opening scene set the tone for the show's odd relationship with music, because there's definitely times where it fits perfectly. Other times, most times, it just kind of is there when they feel they need it, especially when they're trying to make nods to like references to the original. It's just kind of there. It's like, hey, this is played because it's supposed to be here. It doesn't feel as organic as it needs to in much of the project. Next, I've seen is definitely some good exposition of the dire straits that there are, and I thought it was pretty well done with the small bit of world building they did in the toll scene, along, slash the bell peppers kind of thing, how they use that little small reference to the original, and then when we finally get to the scene within going up to the bartender where they're trying to do the red eye deal. I feel like there shows the bartender's dialogue is just a little wonky, and I think it's like the first sign that sometimes it's just awkward the way they talk. But that's just one of the first signs of that. Then we finally get knowledge that Jett has a daughter, and I thought them adding that to Jett's character was not a bad choice. Like, it was interesting, but it's a fitting choice due to his kind of demeanor, and I think that it was a fitting choice. Then we also get to see Faye for the first time, and here I think we got to see that Daniela's fight training probably could have been a little bit better. But I do actually kind of like her overall portrayal of this slightly crasser version of Faye Valentine, because it's definitely a very different Faye Valentine. But the way she embodies this version of Faye is not bad. And I feel like this really begins kind of the alternative and more interwoven syndicate storyline throughout the entire series. That's when this ends up starting here. And that all is what we get to see in the first episode. So, second episode, we get Spike and Gunther. I think this fight was really good. Them having the fight in the bathroom, I thought that was super good. And then this is where we also really get to see the recontextualization of Anna and Grin kind of being hand-in-hand workers at this jazz bar that Anna owns. So this is a completely different roles that they kind of end up having. I mean, Anna's still somewhat kind of like a somewhat protector and rooter for Spike and Julia here, but she's not like a shop owner slash gun smuggler person. She runs this really cool bar where sometimes the underbelly of the underworld like to come and hang out, and keeps her finger on the pulse of what's going on in the city planet kind of thing. And Grin is a completely different character as well. That doesn't necessarily need to be Grin to be Grin, but hey, they gave them the name, so Grin they are. So yeah, but I do actually really like this interpretation of Anna. Like, she's a really cool character to me. This also introduced the pretty cool and often used hologram technology they have in here. Then as we continue on, we get our first deep look into the conflict between Vicious and the Syndicate, as well as his rocky relationship with Julia, because man, they don't like Vicious, and we probably won't like Vicious by the end of this either. Matter of fact, you might not like him immediately, but yeah, having Vicious and Julia throughout this whole thing, and trying to be fleshed out a bit more, was a very interesting choice that did not have to be made. Kind of poorly executed, but could have been interestingly done. It could have been a very intriguing thing to add to the series, but we'll discuss that a little bit more as we continue. Here, the Teddy Bomber still kind of ends up to be kind of like a joke bounty head in the grand scheme of the episode. But in that incident, when they're finally on like the ship or the freight car thing that they're on. We definitely got to see Spike and Jett's willingness to risk their lives for each other, but also still Spike's distrust to be upfront about his syndicate ties. So, it's funny. The first notes that I have here on episode 3, which has been apparently a very famous line. But the note I have on it is, "Yay, black male fetishization. You are black and you are male." Like, such a groan-worthy line, but next thing I have here, the despite that lovely representation of how black guys are viewed in this world, we also get the bad guy in this particular episode. Seeing if I can remember his name in my brain, but right now it is escaping me. But anyway, the bad guy here, albeit black, is definitely falling more of the white lowlife stereotype. As he has like the face changer thing into kind of like this white guy. But the character itself, that bad guy, the characterization is actually a little bit inconsistent, because he does actually start seeming kind of cool and confident and capable when he's doing that fight scene with Spike. But then he just kind of seems like a bumbling idiot in some of the other scenes, especially the ones where he actually has to talk, because he never actually talks when he's in his true black form, except for, oh snap, my thingy is messing up when he was pumping gas. But yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. Also, this episode showed kind of the inconsistencies of the phone usage, since they can sometimes use their phone technology by, they have to actually press the button, or I guess it connects to the nerves or something. And then other times they are just completely hands off. You don't have to actually put your hands on where the connection is to speak. Very inconsistent there, but that's something that happens with a lot of things where wireless communication has to be done, and it's kind of superhero films, action films and stuff. But yeah. Also, another note, dang, that doll is ugly. And that's before it gets destroyed. I put the way they integrated the dogs into the storyline was kind of odd as well, because they come in kind of super late into the storyline, and they try to tie it in with the whole reason why he's a criminal and killed people anyway was to try and get the dogs that they treat better than the poverty laden population. But yeah, so there's just the dogs. They're just here now. Also, this episode definitely showed that they are really trying to push the adult content of Netflix, making that possible. But why? Like, do they really need to push the adult angle? Like, hey, we're adults, we can make adult choices. But I do think towards the end we saw it was a good choice to add the daughter bit to Jett's story. So we have that. So let's move on to some more quick thoughts on episode 4, where we finally get to have our True Faye episode, or True Faye introduction. So when it starts out, that tree transformation definitely showed where the special effects budget went, because that junk was whoa, whoa. Um, and then there's other points where this special effects just look a little bit weird. Um, but the transformation stuff though, that was really cool. Then next thing I have hidden here, balls and nut bags. So like I mentioned before, they try to push the, hey, this is adult rated content or whatever, and they have Faye be a big person who does that a lot. So yeah, she yells balls a lot, and then the fact that they said, what, they transformed into trees? That's nut bags. Like, nut, really? Nut bag? People don't talk like this. But I mean, then again, this is a totally different time and a different part of the universe. So who knows how things have changed. But I did put that the dialogue kind of shines in this episode despite the interesting take on Faye's vocabulary, because I do find it funny at times, despite it being a very comedy-driven style of writing. In this, I also put that Julia's ingenuity starts to rear its head, which shows that, where her using her power that Anna suggests is going to start popping up now. So her use of her wily personality, she really starts to try and manipulate people. So yeah. Here I also put Daniela is flipping ridiculous in this, in like a good way. She's ridiculous, and I like it. She has a lot. You could tell she has a lot of fun in this role. At least that's the way it looks like. But yeah, I put she has a lot of fun in this, since some of the comedy is a little bit childish, but it mainly comes from Faye's character. And I also had a side note that this was a realization. Without Ed, Faye became way more of the comic relief and less femme fatale, although part of her story still has such heart when it comes to her upbringing. And that's just an overall quick thought that I put together there that I realized when rewatching this episode. So let's move on to number 5, the Jett episode, which I feel was super predictable noir episode for Jett. And this is another point where the runtime for each episode really kind of shows it drags the plot lines down quite a bit. And I also just mentioned that for 45 minutes, we really have Spike and Faye kind of just fooling around the whole time. There's a whole bunch of bounties that they're supposed to be, split up together, team up together and go get. And they just really kind of spend it fooling around. And I put here that I get that it's bonding, but they also could have bonded a bit with some action, I think it could have been humorous while still trying to balance out the betrayal story for Jett, but it just kind of felt ridiculous for the two to get nowhere. They didn't get anywhere, and all the time that Jett was out here trying to, catch Chalmers in the act. So yeah. Also, I do feel it's kind of unfortunate to hear the lack of chemistry between Jett and his former partner, because the dialogue between them doesn't always seem supernatural. And between Spike and Faye, their dialogue actually does seem pretty natural. Like, their chemistry is really nice. In fact, the whole crew, when they're having banter between each other, I think they actually play off each other rather well. But it is still kind of sad that Spike and Faye really don't do anything with that lovely chemistry that I think would have been cool to have some action mixed into their story of working together, since they didn't really work together. And then also I made a note that the rock paper scissors logic being off when Spike called out her choices, because he said it was always the third thing that she ended up picking. But the truth is, with all of the different versions of rock paper scissors that Faye brought up, the very first one she actually didn't choose, the third one she listed. So just being nitpicky. I also think the most interesting plot to me, which may be a shock to people, is actually the plot with Vicious and Julia as just the C plot, because this is like when they really kind of get to try and start off the plan to have Vicious take over the syndicate. And I thought it was actually kind of neat how they had that interaction with Mai. So yeah. And last note on this episode, this is a time where I thought the music reference was great at the very end. I thought it was a very nice use of Adieu for when she realized, oh, Fearless is alive. So that was kind of cool. Now, episode 6. We made it halfway through. We're on the second half of the series. And this is when we finally get our first nod toward Edward, which is very nice. And I think it's a lot better than the reveal of Ed, as we all know. Here I also put that there's definitely more. Hey, we're Netflix. We can be as adult as we want to be because of, the whole lesbian relationship, or at least interaction that Faye had with the mechanic. And, it's just like, hey, the mechanic, she's like, oh, she's hot. I'd want to be with her. And she got to be with her. And we definitely saw the aftermath of that. It's like, hey, could you knock? It's like, this is the engine room. Why do I need the knock? To get into the engine room, why are you having sex in the engine room? But anyway, yeah. Also put Chekhov's railgun. Because they definitely pulled that off in this episode. And then I also noted that the VR loop is actually really well executed. I did really like the situations they had Spike continually go through, and I think it really helped lay the groundwork for Spike trying to work out his feelings for Julia in a way that we can truly see. So I think that was actually pretty nice. And also I think the episode does a really good job of grounding Faye as she does have this conversation, like small conversation she has with the mechanic, just talking about how she felt after being woken up and having amnesia and everything. So I thought it was actually nice for her to have like that sweet moment, more endearing and heartfelt moment after seeing her just be kind of the wacky comic relief person who likes yelling crass things. Yeah. And the last note I have on it was nice use of Space Lion, because I think they did place it in a very nice spot. I mean, it still doesn't quite, the music use in this show still is kind of hit or miss with how they decide to use it. It doesn't feel quite like a character like a true character in show, but it they do pick some good moments to pick out some of the iconic songs to place in there. Now episode 7, I mean. So, this is another straight up Faye episode. And Faye and her mother actually have some really great chemistry throughout this episode, and I truly kind of believe the relationship that they had that showed how Faye was able to become the Faye that she is in this version of Cowboy Bebop. And then I think that Jett's kind of demeanor of like, that's sus, throughout this episode was actually pretty fun. Then I also put poor Spike always gets the short end of the stick, because dang, he got stuck fighting all the Iron Minx men and stuff. That was funny. But at least he did get like his back popped or whatever to help with his migraines after getting the crap beat out of him. Well, mentally, in the brain scratch basically episode. And then I wrote how I love how twisted yet dapper Santiago, the eunuch, is. You definitely kind of get a great sense of who he is as a character in just that small little bit that he has. So yeah. And then I also put sneaky Julia really comes into her own here as she's really plotting. This is it. I know how to make my move after she gets the suggestion from Gren. Like, what if, he was just gone? So there's that. And then there were definitely little hints there towards what the end was going to be. Which I thought was actually kind of smart writing on our part, despite the motivations not quite being there. But they did put hints towards, why she might think of doing what she does at the end. And then I also, turning back to Spike, I put the classic oblivious background action trope was used very well here. I thought that was pretty cool. Having Spike fight in the background, and you got Jett over here dancing, watching this girl's recital. I thought it was cute, and it was a bit of comedy that I really enjoyed. And then let's see, I put, thinking about it now, it's kind of strange that there still be a VHS tape for Faye's time capsule. Ooh, wow. Let's try that again. So thinking about it now, this is the notes that I put here. It's kind of strange that a VHS tape would still be Faye's time capsule video, because when the thing was made, like in the future, they still didn't know about like DVDs or Blu-rays or even like digital video when they were creating Cowboy Bebop, because it was like 90, 96, 99, something more on there, somewhere in that span. For some reason I can't remember exactly what year it was made, but yeah, it was the 90s. We weren't thinking, oh, we're recording video, what kind of video are they going to make? Now, if you think about it, for Faye, because the time that she was, put to sleep is still a bit in the future. So they definitely would have had like DVDs, Blu-rays, and in fact, what we basically only use now, just straight up digital video that people record with like even their phones. They would have had that, available for her to use as the time capsule video. But regardless of that little nitpicky thought of, which medium she would have used to capture this moment and letter to her future self, it was a very touching moment. it was actually a very, very nice, touching moment, and then you get the single tear from Faye there, and it was really nice. Like, this episode is definitely like one of the best out of the entire series, in my opinion. Like, this one and this one is probably like first place, and the one before this might be second place, the time loop, or the VR loop. Up next we got episode 8, and I thought it was kind of smart to tie in Ein on this episode. The way they tied Ein, the Mad Pierrot, and Red Eye to the Syndicate. So since they're trying to keep everything super connected, the way they tied these all together was actually kind of smart. And Ein is way more than just a data dog. It seems like he was part of like the testing with a bit of the memories, and he's even technologically synced up to whatever system they have that the Syndicate's research and development team have or whatever, and he can like project things out of his eyes. Like, what? So he's more than just a smart dog. So that's kind of cool. And then I put, in Cowboy Bebop tradition, Spike really gets his behind handed to him, because he really does. Just like in the original, the Mad Pierrot just whoops up on Spike bad. Here we got Woodcock's reemergence, and that plants the seed of doubt for Jett, and grows the unease of her. The way this is written is dumb. My notes are dumb. Anyway, even though she's still kind of really heavily flirting with Jett, it doesn't feel as abrasive as the original with "you're black and you are male." Like, this time she actually mainly kind of sticks to her job. It's like, hey, I thought we'd be on a date, but look, this is the information I was able to find on this. And your partner? I wasn't able to find anything on him either. You might wanna figure that out. But next time, let's have a nice date next time. You know, it's just more kind of in the background and not just so freaking overt and slightly fetishizy. And I know that's not a word, but you know what I mean. But yeah. So up next on my notes, I got oh, yep. Like I mentioned earlier, I became way more than a data dog. And then here we finally get the cartoon. We have the multiples of the same outfit in the closet shot, because we definitely get to see Spike go and grab the shirt and jacket, blazer thing, whatever you want to call it, and he has like multiple of the same thing in his closet. So that was kind of interesting to see that. And then when it comes to Vicious, he finally got to show his smarts, and along with his fighting capability against the Syndicate, when he outsmarts Santiago, Mai, and also the Syndicate elders, and he straight up just is able to murder all of them. Yeah, if you think logically about how they're gonna fight against, just one guy, he definitely shouldn't have made it out alive, but the way he does is actually kind of cool, so I thought that was dope. And we also kind of get the reveal that he's related to one of the elders, and it also gives the first inkling of where his insecurity about being man enough started, and it's because of his relationship with his father, as he calls him a little boy. Then up next we got the episode 9, which is a complete flashback episode. And we kind of get to see where the ambition and also irresponsible behavior of Vicious, um, has always been like, and also just the cool headedness of Spike as Fearless. He definitely became a little more carefree once he was let out of the syndicate, but he does still seem kind of cool headed, and he's still a little jokey like when he has the little scene with Anna. So you see small bits of what Spike would be apart from Fearless. Here I put also that, well, many other people have noted that Julie and Spike don't really give much signs of their attraction towards each other outside of like the dance scene, and then like the small mention that Vicious says that she finds him funny before they go and talk to the head capo dude. Because he's like, oh, maybe you should come out to dinner with us sometime because for some reason she finds you funny. Like, that's the only thing, like, nod that is just like, hey, maybe they do get to hang out, because you never see them hang out other than the dance scene. Then when they're leaving the club after the announcement of Julia's, promotion to lead at the club, and then they go straight to the lovemaking scene thing while Vicious is being dumb and killing other syndicate people, or the dude who disrespected the syndicate. But yeah. And then Spike finally lets his loyalty to Vicious break his moral code, but it did not stop him from selfishly wanting to run away with Julia. So it's like, hey, they sent me to kill you, but you know what? I like you too much. I have too much respect for you. I'm gonna go ahead and just deal with this problem with the other syndicate people, and well, the opposite syndicate people. Get rid of their gang, and kill a kid, and then steal your girl. So it's just like, yeah, you're protecting him and yet hurting him all at the same time. Slightly weird. But this was the return of Space Lion, and I thought the cinematography on this episode was actually on point, though I guess some people did not like the various Dutch angles through this, but I think there was actually some pretty good shots in here and interesting ideas with the way some of the shots are put together, like especially with the lovemaking scene / killing the dude scene. I think that was like really well interwoven together to show, oh, we got the pouring of this, which comes the pouring of the gasoline, and then it's just, I thought there were some cool things about the way this episode was shot. Finally, we get the final episode 10, where Julia becomes the ultimate enemy to Vicious, as she now aims for the lowest of blows, which is aiming towards Vicious insecurity. So she straight up just says, after realizing, oh, he knows I tried to kill him, I planned to have him killed when he was given to the syndicate. He's like, well, you know what? You are not a man anyway, so take that. And so yeah, and then I put a lot of the trust all gets broken down in the Bebop crew once they find out that Spike was tied to the syndicate, and this kind of really matches up with a good amount of the themes shown throughout the episodes, especially the last half of the episodes, where they really do kind of emphasize the team mentality and like being able to trust each other and talk to each other about the problems. And it's like, hey, we would have helped you if you would have let us know that she was blackmailing you for your identikit, or hey, you could have told me that you needed to go handle this problem because this has ties to why you were jailed and kicked off the force. Hey, you could have, it's just a lot of things like that. And then, I just put Julia is fully the master manipulator now, as she manipulates a syndicate person to try and let her free and have a full-on car accident where that girl dies to protect her, and then so she's just full-on master manipulator now. Also, I put that my Yamane is back with another great tune with Yoko Kanno, and that makes me very happy, and that plays in the scene as they're showing up to try and get Jett's daughter back. Like the song. And they brought Rain back, and it's Steve Conte's version, or Conte. I'm not sure if it's Conte or Conte, I've never found out. But either way, instead of using the demo version like the anime used, they use the actual version with Steve. So I thought that was an interesting choice. And then I actually liked the occasional quotes of the original lines from the anime, but I get how some people could find them a bit out of place. But I liked the small nods to that. And then after they reveal that Julia is going to try and take over the syndicate or whatever, I think that with Julia kind of in the forefront, this whole story is definitely going to lead itself into brand new territory if they ever do get that second season. So yeah, let me now wrap this up with just kind of like some overall notes that I had over the series as a whole. I put overall this is truly an alternative take on the story and characters. This is like an alternate universe. Like some of the things are the same, but then there's some things that are completely different. But I do feel like the overall cast and writing doesn't quite hit a stride until episode 6. And there are certainly aspects of the first episodes that did go well, but it still seems like the kinks were being worked out in those ones. And the way they approached the show similarly to the original with different episode writers and directors seemed like a great idea to do that, but I feel like without a strong showrunner's vision, not allowing so much stuff to go off the rails, it just seems like some parts didn't gel as well from episode to episode. Also, I feel like the music, as mentioned before, really needs to be thought as one of the main characters of the show, because I do not use the music like that. The music is like kind of like a cool dandy prop that they kind of throw up, like, hey, here's the song, this song. Hey, here's some jazz, because Cowboy Bebop's about jazz. It's like, no, it needs to feel supernatural, like, and organic to what's happening in the story. And I feel like they just did not. And even though there is some really good additions from Kanno, it's just kind of poorly used. I think the idea to flesh out Vicious and Julia and the Syndicate was an intriguing choice that worked in a few cases, in my opinion, but it definitely was an indicator that it was going to be a completely different direction than the original. Plus, it made it so that the serial parts of the show were way more constant from episode to episode, and it's way less, episodic, like most of Cowboy Bebop kind of is. I feel like they modernized the story quite a bit with the dialogue and some of the behavioral bits that to make it more like TV of today, and I have some qualms with that, as a lot of people have, but it also just adds to my confusion of who this is for. The reason I'm confused is that I'm trying to figure out what audience they're trying to really cater to, is and which demographic that they're targeting. Because at times it seems childish, then at times it's mature, and then next there's kind of tongue-in-cheek and drier jokes, and then there's some straight over just crassness. Are they aiming for like late teens audience? Are they looking for like young adults? Or are they trying to aim towards the millennials that grew up with the original? It's just completely unclear who they're really aiming for. But I can honestly see that there are things that people are gonna like about this show, but I also see a lot of people, especially diehard fans, being disappointed. But we all knew them trying to do a live action version of this anime was always going to run super high risk because most live action adaptations are not very good. But if they do get a second season, I think if they really work on what like the true essence of what Cowboy Bebop is, and really work on having the overall feel for each episode be a little bit more cohesive, I think it could be pretty good. But that's all my thoughts on this, so I appreciate you enduring my lovely long diatribe and going through my notes of the episodes and the show overall. And hit the like button if you enjoyed this. You can subscribe if you'd like to see more reactions and reviews, much more on the music side, since I do a little less movies and TV nowadays. But yeah, until next time, much love, peace.